to Harry Potter sleep stories. Tonight, we slip gently into the warm heart of Hogwarts, past the flickering torches, past the whispering portraits, and into the quiet places where the castle rests. Find a comfortable position, let your breathing slow, and allow the soft magic of the wizarding world to carry you toward sleep. Imagine yourself now gliding softly through the hushed, moonlit corridors of Hogwarts. The tapestries hang still, their ancient threads absorbing the ambient quiet, a gentle echo of forgotten footsteps. Moonlight streams through tall, arched windows, painting silver patterns on the polished stone floor, illuminating dust motes dancing in the cool air like tiny, shimmering sprites. The air itself feels old and comforting, imbued with centuries of learning and quiet magic. You pass by sleeping suits of armor, their metal glinting faintly in the soft light, standing guard even in repose. Each creak of the ancient castle is a lullaby, a soft sigh of history settling down for the night. Our destination tonight is a place of profound stillness, a sanctuary of stories and forgotten whispers. The Hogwarts Library. We move without haste, letting each breath deepen, each step feel lighter. The sounds of the day have long receded, replaced by the gentle hum of magic that seems to vibrate through the very stones of the castle. A soft, welcoming glow beckons from ahead, hinting at the vast, silent worlds contained within. This is not a journey of urgency, but of gentle exploration, a slow unraveling into the quiet heart of knowledge. As you step across the threshold, the world outside fades to a distant echo, replaced by the deep, woody scent of parchment and old leather, mingling with a faint, sweet aroma of dust motes suspended in time. The main hall of the library stretches before you, an expanse of towering shelves that reach up towards the vaulted ceiling, disappearing into shadow where floating candles cast their gentle, dancing lights. Each aisle is a quiet valley of knowledge, lined with countless spines, all slumbering in their ancient wisdom. The air here is still, thick with the unread words and untold tales of generations. You can almost feel the gentle hum of magic emanating from the vast collection, a quiet energy that doesn't disturb the peace, but rather deepens it. We walk slowly, reverently, past sections of transfiguration, potions, charms, each a silent world waiting to be discovered. The soft glow of the floating candles casts long, shifting shadows that dance with you, guiding your path without a sound. This grand chamber holds the accumulated wisdom of the wizarding world, a gentle guardian of secrets, both grand and small. We are drawn, however, to a particular corner, a section whispered about in hushed tones, where the oldest, most powerful, and often most captivating tales reside. The air becomes slightly cooler, the silence even more profound as we approach the wrought iron gates that guard the restricted section. The gates to the restricted section stand slightly ajar, as if inviting you into an even deeper realm of quietude. Beyond them, the light is different, softer, more diffused, and with a peculiar, almost living quality. Here, the shelves are darker, made of an older, perhaps enchanted wood, and the books themselves appear more ancient, their leather bindings worn smooth by centuries of careful handling. But what truly captures your gaze is the subtle inner luminescence emanating from certain tomes. Not every book glows, but here and there, a faint, comforting light pulses from within, a quiet, internal radiance that paints the air with soft colors, a gentle sapphire from one volume, a warm emerald from another, a deep, mystical gold from a third. This is the quiet glow of ancient tomes, each one holding not just words, but echoes of spells, whispers of forgotten history, and fragments of pure, unadulterated magic. Dust motes, larger and more numerous here, shimmer like golden particles in the gentle light, swirling in slow, lazy dances, catching the luminescence and amplifying it. The air is still and heavy with age, yet remarkably fresh and invigorating, carrying the faintest scent of dried herbs and potent enchantments. As you observe these softly glowing books, a profound sense of peace settles over you, a feeling of being connected to a vast, comforting lineage of knowledge and wonder. Each glowing book is a tiny, self-contained universe, softly radiating its gentle energy, inviting you to simply be present in its ancient, quiet company. The magic here is not for grand displays, but for gentle contemplation, a lullaby woven from centuries of quiet power. The wrought iron gates, dark and intricate, stand ajar just enough to invite you through. As you gently push them further, they swing open with a nearly inaudible sigh, a sound almost swallowed by the profound silence that greets you. Stepping across this unseen threshold, the air becomes distinctly cooler, carrying with it a different kind of scent, deeper, more solemn, perhaps tinged with the dry aroma of forgotten spells and long-held secrets. The distant, playful dance of candles from the main library seems to fade, replaced by a softer, more focused illumination from within this guarded space. This entrance feels less like crossing a room and more like stepping into a different stratum of time, where knowledge slumbers, undisturbed and potent. Inside, the silence deepens even further, almost absorbing sound itself. The towering shelves here are even more imposing, reaching up into gloomier heights where the light struggles to fully penetrate. Instead of the familiar floating candles, a different kind of illumination emanates, a soft, ethereal glow that seems to come from the very spines of the books themselves, casting elongated, gentle shadows across the narrow aisles. This is not the bright, inquisitive light of general knowledge, but the hushed, contained radiance of ancient wisdom, a warm, quiet heartbeat of magic that pulses gently through the air. The scent here is richer, an intoxicating blend of aged parchment, esoteric inks, and a faint, sweet hint of something undefinable, like forgotten spells, just barely stirring. We walk deeper, our steps cushioned by the thick, ancient carpet, each movement a gentle ripple in the ocean of quiet. Along the shelves, the bindings are not merely old leather, they are works of art, some embossed with faded gold, others with intricate silver clasps that seem to hum with a dormant energy. You notice how this unique glow intensifies slightly around certain volumes, as if they are breathing softly in their sleep, holding within them stories and spells of immense, quiet power. Each faint emanation from a book is like a tiny, luminous whisper, promising secrets without breaking the profound peace. There are no frantic rustles of turning pages here, only the steady, comforting presence of untold knowledge, patiently waiting, radiating a soft, hypnotic light that invites your gaze to linger. As your eyes adjust further, you notice the source of this peculiar illumination isn't merely reflected light, but an inner radiance. Each ancient tome seems to hold a tiny, warm ember within its pages, casting a faint, shimmering aura that dances gently in the air. These aren't just books, they are reservoirs of hushed power, their very presence a silent hum. Titles like The Somnolent Charms of Ancient Egypt, or a gentle compendium of dream weaving faintly shimmer into view on their faded leather bindings, hinting at the tranquil knowledge they contain. You take a slow, soft step deeper into one of the narrow aisles, the soft pile of an ancient, enchanted rug cushioning your footfall, absorbing even the slightest sound. The air here, though cool, feels incredibly soft, as if woven from moonlight and forgotten dreams. It wraps around you like a gentle cloak, a silent sentinel guarding these profound secrets. The wooden shelves, dark and polished by centuries of subtle magic, rise majestically, holding their precious cargo with quiet dignity. You can almost feel the weight of time pressed into the very fibers of the paper and leather surrounding you. As you pause between two towering stacks, a particularly ancient-looking volume catches your eye, its spine intricately embossed with symbols that seem to slowly breathe with a faint, almost imperceptible light. A fine, glittering dust, born of forgotten spells, rests undisturbed upon its worn cover, a testament to the passage of untold years. This isn't ordinary dust. It feels imbued with the quiet memory of every hand that has ever turned its pages, every whispered incantation it has ever absorbed. The very air around it hums with a deep, content energy, a gentle thrum that encourages stillness and peace. The faint, shimmering aura around each book now seems to reveal tiny, almost imperceptible motes of dust, dancing like miniature stars within their individual spheres of light. Each particle catches the ethereal glow, turning the air itself into a slow, silent ballet. You notice that some books, particularly the oldest ones with thicker, worn bindings, pulse with a slightly deeper, more resonant glow, as if their ancient knowledge is a heavier, more concentrated form of magic. A subtle warmth radiates from these, a comforting presence that hints at untold stories and forgotten incantations sleeping peacefully within. You let your gaze drift along a row, drawn by an almost magnetic pull to a particular volume with a binding of dark, almost black leather, etched with symbols so faint they are nearly invisible. Its glow is a deep, tranquil sapphire, distinct from the warm amber of its neighbors. As you gently reach out, not quite touching, a faint, almost musical hum seems to emanate from its cover, a vibration so subtle it feels more like a memory than a sound. The air around it feels infinitesimally thicker, charged with a gentle, sleepy energy. Further down the aisle, where the towering shelves almost meet overhead, you glimpse a small, half-hidden alcove, darker than the rest, yet still touched by the soft, diffused light from surrounding volumes. Within it, not on a shelf, but resting on a low, intricately carved wooden stand, is a single, enormous book. Its cover, thick and unadorned save for a single, deeply set silver clasp, doesn't glow with an inner light, but instead reflects the ambient radiance in a deep, contemplative sheen. It seems to sleep, a silent, weighty guardian of ancient secrets, drawing you closer with its sheer, still presence. Your hand hovers, the sapphire glow now bathing your fingertips in its cool, gentle light. The faint hum transforms, becoming a deep, resonant thrum that seems to resonate within the very air, a soft melody of forgotten lore, as if in response to your contemplative presence. The almost invisible symbols on the dark leather seem to deepen in their faint etching, swirling with a barely perceptible luminescence. They don't quite reveal themselves, but hint at ancient script, a language of pure magic waiting for a slumbering mind to decipher. The gentle energy radiating from the book feels like a lullaby, a soft invitation to simply be in its ancient presence, to let the layers of time and magic wash over you. It's a weightless, comforting sensation, pulling you deeper into the quiet reverence of the aisle. You slowly withdraw your hand, leaving the sapphire book to its tranquil emanation. As your gaze drifts from the particular volume, the collective glow of the surrounding shelves seems to subtly intensify, weaving together into a shimmering tapestry of light that stretches down the narrow aisle, a delicate, almost floral scent, tinged with the dry, sweet fragrance of parchment and cedar, now perfumes the air. It's a scent of forgotten gardens and quiet, dust-filled studies, carried on the faintest, almost imperceptible current of air that seems to whisper secrets from the very walls. The ancient rug underfoot, a rich, faded crimson, seems to absorb this magical effluvium, its worn fibers faintly shimmering with reflected light, making the entire path ahead feel like a softly illuminated dream. Allowing your eyes to gently lift, you notice how the light, though vibrant near the books, slowly fades into a soft, velvety darkness higher up the towering shelves. Here, far above eye level, where the very top of the wooden structures meet the vaulted stone ceiling, carved details emerge from the gloom. Perhaps a small, sleeping stone gargoyle peeking from a corbel, or an ornate, dust-veiled frieze depicting forgotten constellations and arcane symbols. It's a realm untouched by casual readers, a silent vigil kept by the castle itself, a single, floating enchanted candle, previously unnoticed in its lofty perch, now casts a languid, golden pool of light upon a particularly large, unadorned volume resting horizontally on a high, recessed ledge, its plain binding a stark contrast to the flamboyant glows below. Its light seems to pull on the air, making the dust motes around it twirl in lazy, slow eddies. Your steps, almost imperceptible on the faded rug, carried you deeper into this luminous realm. Each breath you took felt like inhaling starlight and forgotten stories, mingled with the sweet, dry perfume of time. As you glided further, the path ahead didn't just feel like a dream. It became a dream, a gentle current guiding you past shelves where the collective glow seemed to pulse with a slow, deliberate rhythm. From between the tightly packed spines, tiny motes of golden dust, suspended in the still air, caught and refracted the light, dancing in miniature constellations before softly settling back onto the aged leather. A faint, almost melodic rustling, like the turning of 1,000 ancient, paper-thin pages, seemed to emanate from the very air, a constant, hushed conversation among the sleeping volumes. This ethereal path led you to a subtle widening of the aisle, where the shelves receded slightly to form a shallow alcove. Here, the books seemed to draw closer, their quiet emanations intertwining to create a focal point of shimmering energy. Unlike the consistent sapphire or general golden light of the main aisle, a few select volumes within this alcove pulsed with a deeper, richer amethyst glow, a color suggesting profound secrets and forgotten spells. These weren't just books. They felt like vessels of slumbering power, their leather bindings thicker, their clasps wrought with intricate, unmoving symbols of tarnished silver. The air here was even more still, almost reverent, as if the very atmosphere held its breath around these particularly potent artifacts. One particular volume, thick and imposing, resting horizontally on a small, velvet-lined pedestal within the alcove, seemed to be the source of this intensified amethyst light. Its cover, a dark, aged dragonhide, felt almost warm to your imagined touch, radiating a gentle, sleepy hum that was both ancient and deeply comforting. Though no specific words were visible, the surface of the hide was embossed with a swirling, serpentine pattern that seemed to shift and flow with the book's inner light, hinting at the vast, unwritten knowledge contained within. This was not a book to be read quickly, but rather to be absorbed slowly, patiently, its magic inviting you to simply rest in its presence, allowing the quiet glow to soothe your mind into a deeper state of calm. The thick, dark leather bindings of these amethyst-hued volumes seemed to absorb the ambient light, only to release it in soft, throbbing pulses of deep purple. Their tarnished silver clasps, intricately etched with symbols that seemed to writhe gently in the low light, felt ancient beyond measure, their purpose lost to all but the most forgotten lore. A barely audible, resonant hum, like the distant vibration of a heavy, deep bell, seemed to emanate from their collective energy. A sound felt more than heard, resonating softly within the quiet air, a subtle vibration against the deep stillness. Around these amethyst-hued volumes, the golden motes of dust, which had danced playfully in the broader aisles, now moved with a different, almost reverent slowness. Each tiny particle seemed to catch and briefly hold a fragment of the purple light, shimmering like miniature, transient stars before continuing its soft, slow descent through the thick, still air. This quiet dance created an illusion of depth around the books, as if one was peering into a velvet-dark cosmic void, each glowing book a distant, slumbering galaxy. The air itself tasted faintly of petrichor and old parchment, a comforting blend of earth and forgotten wisdom. As your gaze lingered, a single tome, slightly larger than its companions, and situated at the center of this amethyst cluster, seemed to deepen its hue. The purple light radiating from its spine and cover intensified by just a whisper, a silent pulse that suggested a quiet awakening without any true physical movement. It was as if the book itself was taking a soft, slow breath, a gentle expansion of its slumbering magic. A faint, cool breeze, carrying the faintest scent of lavender and dried ink, seemed to momentarily stir the air in this immediate vicinity. A gentle sigh from the ancient magic held within. This subtle magic, a blend of deep earth and forgotten learning, seemed to draw one closer to the source of the amethyst glow. Reaching out a hand, one could almost feel the cool, aged leather of a particular volume, its surface remarkably smooth, despite its evident antiquity. The tarnished silver clasps, once dull, now seemed to catch and refract the book's inner light, outlining the intricate, almost serpentine patterns etched into their surface. A faint, sweet aroma, like dried lavender pressed between pages, mingled with the petrichor, hinting at the gentle passage of countless seasons within its protective covers. Nearby, other volumes stood sentinel, their spines dark and unlit, yet imbued with an equally profound, albeit silent, presence. Some were bound in faded crimson velvet, others in dark green dragonhide, their titles almost completely worn away by time. They absorbed the soft purple pulses from their glowing counterparts, creating fleeting shadows that danced gently on their own muted surfaces. This interplay of light and shadow revealed the occasional glint of a tiny, forgotten bookmark, a thin, silken thread, or a pressed, brittle fern tucked away within the seemingly impenetrable rose. As the eye adjusted further to the dim, enchanted light, it became clear that the glowing books were not static sources of light. Their purple pulses seemed to ebb and flow, almost like a slow, synchronized breath, causing the golden dust motes to shimmer with varying intensity with each gentle surge of light. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth radiated outwards, a silent invitation to lean a little closer. This quiet, rhythmic pulse imbued the entire alcove with a living, breathing energy, a gentle, unseen heartbeat of ancient knowledge, murmuring softly in the deep quiet of the castle. This tiny, desiccated fern, a fossilized echo of a summer long past, was not merely tucked away, but seemed almost embedded within the very fabric of the book it marked. Its delicate fronds, a deep, faded emerald, lay still and perfect against the parchment, hinting at a moment when someone, long ago, paused their reading to preserve a memory. The subtle amethyst light, emanating from the glowing volume nearby, now seemed to gather around this small botanical relic, causing it to shimmer with a faint, ephemeral luminescence of its own. It was as if the fern, too, held a tiny spark of the ancient magic, quietly sharing its own forgotten story. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth radiated from the bound pages it rested upon, a gentle pulse of hidden life within the ancient wood and paper. The book it marked was bound in dark, supple dragonhide, its surface worn smooth by centuries of quiet handling, its title a mere whisper of faded gold lettering that read, Herbal Arcana, Collected Lore of the Whispering Woods. The silver clasps, tarnished yet gleaming under the purple luminescence, seemed to breathe with a faint, metallic scent, subtly mingling with the lavender and petrichor. As the amethyst light pulsed, a single thin page, almost imperceptibly, seemed to sigh and drift open just a fraction further, releasing a delicate, earthy fragrance. It wasn't a sudden movement, but a slow, graceful unfurling, as if the book itself was drawing a gentle breath, inviting a deeper connection with its contents. On the now slightly revealed page, a faded, intricate illustration came into soft view. The delicate silhouette of an enchanted moonpetal blossom, its petals appearing to faintly shimmer even in static ink. Beside it, elegant, spidery script, handwritten in an ink that was once vibrant green, but but now mellowed to a sage hue, detailed the flower's properties. A rare bloom that, according to the text, only opens under specific celestial alignments, sharing its essence as a gentle lullaby for tired minds. The very words seemed to hum with a quiet energy, radiating a profound sense of peace. It felt less like reading a book and more like listening to a forgotten melody, a soft assurance woven into the very threads of parchment and time, inviting one to lean closer and absorb its soothing, ancient wisdom. The page that had eased itself open was not filled with dense, spidery script, but held a single, exquisite illustration. It was a botanical drawing of a plant that seemed to dream itself into existence, a noctua flora, a moon petal vine, according to the faint, elegant lettering coiled beneath it. The ink was not black, but a deep, shimmering indigo, almost the color of the sky just after the sun has vanished. It was drawn with such delicate precision that you could almost feel the velvety texture of its leaves, each one traced with veins of the finest, palest silver. The earthy fragrance that had escaped the book now deepened, mingling with a new, ethereal scent, cool and sweet, like a hidden garden that blooms only under the light of a full moon. For a long, peaceful moment, the image simply glowed, a static portrait of forgotten flora. Then, with a slowness that was almost imperceptible, the illusion of life ceased to be an illusion. The fine, silver veins on the largest leaf began to shimmer with a more intense light, and the tip of the illustrated vine started to grow. It extended across the vellum page without a sound, the indigo ink flowing from its existing lines to create new ones, drawing a graceful, curving stem that hadn't existed moments before. A new leaf, tightly furled, appeared, and then slowly, languidly unfurled itself, its silver veins branching out like frost on a windowpane. Near the top of the newly grown stem, a tiny, closed bud, no larger than a dewdrop, began to swell. The tiny, shimmering bud continued to swell, its tightly closed form pulsing with a soft, internal light. Then, petal by petal, it bloomed. It wasn't an earthly flower, but one seemingly woven from solidified moonlight and spun silver. Its petals were translucent, and as they opened, they released not pollen, but a soft cascade of tiny, luminous motes. These motes of light, each a pinprick of pure, gentle energy, did not fall, but drifted upwards and outwards. Escaping the confines of the book, they floated into the still air of the aisle, with the unhurried grace of milkweed seeds on a windless day. The tiny, closed bud, nestled near the newly unfurled leaf, now began its own slow dance of awakening. Its delicate surface, previously smooth and taut, showed the faintest tremor, a silent signal of the life stirring within. With a languid grace, the tiny sepals at its base began to part, revealing the merest hint of the petals beneath. These were not the dark indigo of the vine, but held a luminous, almost pearlescent sheen, a color between the palest silver and the softest, most ethereal blue, as if woven from moonbeams themselves. A faint, internal pulse of light began to emanate from its very core, a gentle heartbeat of magic. As the petals continued their unhurried unfolding, they revealed an intricate, almost celestial pattern within, spirals of deeper indigo against the shimmering silver blue. The gentle light from within intensified, no longer just a pulse, but a steady, tranquil radiance that cast a faint, dreamy halo across the vellum page. It illuminated the delicate indigo ink of the Noctua Flora inscription with a newfound clarity, making the elegant script seem to breathe. The air around the book, already fragrant, now carried an even richer, cooler sweetness, a scent like dew-kissed night blooms mingled with ancient paper and soft starlight, calming and profound. The soft, silver blue luminescence from the fully opened Noctua Flora now extended just beyond the boundaries of the ancient tome, reaching out like a tender whisper into the dimness of the restricted section. It caught the edges of the heavy, leather-bound books on the shelves nearby, highlighting their faded titles in faint, fleeting gleams. Tiny, undisturbed motes of dust, suspended in the still air, became visible within its gentle reach, dancing in slow, silent eddies like miniature constellations. A subtle, lengthening shadow, cast by the spine of the illuminated book, began to stretch across the worn stone floor, a quiet, shifting presence in the deep silence. The bud, now fully awakened, unfurled its final, innermost petals with an almost imperceptible sigh, revealing a shimmering, delicate core. Within this heart, a tiny, intricate spiral of pure, condensed starlight pulsed softly, a miniature nebula held captive within the flower's ethereal bloom. This central glow was brighter, yet somehow softer, casting a warmer, deeper silver across the page, making the surrounding indigo veins of the vine seem to hum with a quiet, resonant energy. A few stray, luminous motes, no larger than dust, now detached themselves from the flower's radiant aura, drifting slowly upward like tiny, silent fireflies. The tranquil radiance from the fully bloomed Noctua Flora now extended beyond the pages, casting a gentle, shifting light upon the surrounding environment. It illuminated the rich, worn leather of the book's binding, highlighting the intricate, embossed patterns of forgotten crests and symbols that seemed to briefly shimmer and deepen in color. Nearby, the aged, heavy wooden table, scarred by centuries of use, caught the silver blue glow. Its dark surface momentarily softened, revealing the subtle grain of the wood. The quiet breath of the magic seemed to lift the scent of ancient paper, mingling it with the flower's delicate fragrance, creating a deeper, more profound sense of peace. As the flower's glow expanded, it subtly revealed a nearby stack of older, leather-bound volumes, their spines etched with titles in faded gold leaf, momentarily catching the soft light. These silent sentinels of knowledge, previously lost in the shadows, now seemed to lean in, as if listening to the quiet magic emanating from the noctua flora. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper, not quite a sound, but a feeling of ancient, forgotten words, seemed to resonate from these surrounding books. Stirred by the flowers' quiet magic, it was a comforting hum, a gentle reassurance from the castle's deepest memory, encouraging a deeper drift into calm as the last vestiges of the noctua flora's vibrant bloom gently subsided. Its concentrated magic didn't vanish, but diffused, softening into a pervasive, almost imperceptible warmth that seemed to emanate from the very air of the restricted section. The silver blue glow, no longer centered on a single page, now seemed to murmur from within the ancient leather bindings of the surrounding shelves. Each weighty tome, standing sentinel in its shadowed alcove, seemed to hold a quiet, internal flicker, a breath of lingering enchantment. Dust motes, caught in this newly diffused luminescence, danced lazily in the still air like tiny, contented spirits guarding forgotten wisdom. The scent of dew-kissed night blooms gradually receded, leaving behind the deeper, more profound aroma of parchment and dried ink, mingled with the faint, comforting earthiness of aged wood and stone. It was a perfume of centuries, a silent symphony of history settling around you like a soft, invisible shawl. This quiet radiance wasn't meant to illuminate active study, but rather to cradle the secrets held within, offering a sense of profound, undisturbed rest. The intricate patterns on nearby book spines, once briefly highlighted, now glowed with a subtler, continuous inner light, hinting at stories quietly sleeping, waiting patiently for dawn. The silence in the restricted section deepened further, growing rich and velvety, broken only by the occasional soft sigh of the castle itself, a gentle creak of ancient timbers, or the nearly inaudible rustle of a page turned by an unseen breeze. This was the true heartbeat of Hogwarts at rest, a rhythm slow and steady, echoing the quiet certainty of forgotten spells and slumbering histories. The subtle, pervasive glow from the books wasn't bright enough to disturb, but just enough to assure, painting the deep shadows with washes of silver and indigo. It traced the worn edges of a colossal bestiary, highlighting the faint, shimmering outlines of mythical creatures embossed upon its cover, now seeming to swim in a sea of peaceful light. This gentle illumination extended to the grand, arched windows, where soft moonlight, no longer needing to pierce profound darkness, seemed to mingle effortlessly with the internal radiance, creating a soft, ethereal luminescence that filled the vast space with a sense of protective calm. You could feel the weight of countless stories, not as a burden, but as a comforting, grounding presence, each one a whispered lullaby from the past. As your eyelids grow heavy and your thoughts begin to drift like the luminous motes, ascending slowly towards the unseen ceiling, the quiet glow from the ancient tomes softens even further, becoming less a visible light and more a felt presence. It is a warmth that seeps into the very air, a gentle hum that resonates deep within the silent heart of the castle. Each glowing outline, each hinted pattern upon a forgotten volume, now seems to dissolve into a single, cohesive blanket of serene energy, enveloping you in a cocoon of scholarly calm. The scent of aged paper and quiet magic, so profound just moments ago, now becomes a subtle, lingering whisper, inviting your mind to release its hold on the waking world. You are simply a part of this ancient, peaceful tableau, cradled by the history and quiet wonders of Hogwarts. The whispers of magic from these hallowed shelves are not seeking answers, but offering solace, guiding your consciousness into the profound, dreamless depths of sleep, where every old book holds only comfort, and every shadow is a promise of rest. Let the final echoes of this gentle glow be the last thing you feel as you surrender to the deep, soft magic of the night. Beyond the general, enveloping glow, your gaze might drift to a specific towering bookshelf, reaching towards the unseen ceiling, its contents arranged with a quiet dignity. These particular volumes, unlike some of their more restless neighbors in less restricted aisles, don't merely reflect light. They seem to hum with a soft, internal energy, a subtle vibration that you can almost feel in the profound stillness of the air. This shelf, perhaps, is home to forgotten incantations from epochs long past, or ancient chronicles detailing the rise and fall of magical civilizations, never spoken of in modern classrooms. Their weighty covers, often crafted from rare, enchanted woods, or a leather that feels impossibly soft to the touch, are etched with symbols that shimmer faintly in the pervasive, ethereal light, like distant constellations, silently mapping an unknown sky. Each spine, though aged, holds its integrity, a testament to the powerful preservation charms woven into their very fibers, ensuring their knowledge remains undisturbed. As you draw imperceptibly closer, not with footsteps, but with a gentle shift of focus, a single, minuscule mote of dust, a tiny speck of forgotten time, might be caught in the quiet radiance emanating from a particularly ornate volume. It drifts slowly downward, a glittering particle in a beam of serene light, seeming to descend at an impossibly tranquil pace, highlighting the deep, shifting hues of an old grimoire's faded, embroidered cover. It's a subtle, almost imperceptible reminder of the vast, undisturbed age of this place, where even the minutest particles in the air move with a venerable, unhurried slowness. The silence here is not empty or echoing, but profoundly full. A quiet, almost audible conversation of history, held in the gentle dance of dust motes, the subtle breathing of the castle itself, and the patient wait of dormant spells. This micro-universe of dust and light reinforces the profound sense of peace from the heavy, dark volume that seems to beckon with its quiet presence. A faint, almost ethereal smell might waft gently into the air around you. It's an aroma of ancient parchment, certainly, but mingled with something more delicate. Perhaps a hint of dried lavender long forgotten between pressed pages, or the subtle, sweet scent of a vanished rose, its petals turned to dust centuries ago. If its title were to reveal itself, etched softly into the worn leather, it would whisper of celestial movements, of the secrets held within the stars, or the intricate mysteries of ancient herbology. Its slightly open pages might hint at illustrations of forgotten star charts, meticulously drawn constellations, or botanical drawings of plants that no longer grace the earth, all now resting peacefully, bathed in the tranquil, silvery light. This isn't just about the act of reading or even observing. It's about sensing the profound, comforting presence of dormant knowledge, patiently dreaming its ancient dreams from the array of illuminated spines. One particular volume, bound in a deep, midnight blue velvet, radiates a light that feels almost tangible. It's not merely visual. There's a distinct, gentle warmth emanating from its ancient covers, a silent, comforting heat that seems to settle the air around it. This glow, softer than any candlelight, paints the edges of the adjacent, equally venerable books with a diffused, ethereal halo. The dust motes, caught in its immediate aura, appear to slow their descent even further, tracing lazy, illuminated spirals, each particle a tiny, sparkling star in its own slow orbit. The intricate, silver thread embroidery on its cover, depicting a constellation long forgotten by modern astronomers, pulses with a rhythm so faint it feels like a dream, mirroring a deep, steady heartbeat from within the very core of the castle itself. This silent, pulsing light suggests an enduring, patient wisdom, held captive within its pages, waiting for an eternity. As your attention rests upon this deep blue tome, a profound, almost imperceptible hum begins to resonate in the quiet. It's not a sound heard with the ears, but felt as a gentle vibration deep within the chest, a soft thrumming that seems to echo the pulse of the ancient magic contained within the book. This subtle energy is so delicate that it merely stirs the very closest dust motes into a slightly more animated, yet still languid, dance, creating tiny, shimmering vortices of light around the book's spine. It's the silent song of countless centuries, the murmuring of forgotten enchantments, quietly alive and patient. The faint glow from the book seems to respond, deepening its hue just a fraction. A richer, more profound sapphire spreading through the pervasive calm, a delicate, aged scent, reminiscent of sun-warmed parchment and dried herbs, now wafts gently from the glowing volume. It's a perfume of ancient libraries and forgotten gardens, mingling with the cool, stony breath of the castle itself, creating a unique olfactory tapestry that wraps itself around the profound stillness. This aroma is not sharp or intrusive, but a soft, grounding presence, inviting a deeper sense of peace. As the scent unfolds, a tiny, almost ethereal wisp of mist, silvery and shimmering, curls slowly from between the book's slightly parted pages. It doesn't dissipate quickly, but hangs in the air for a long moment, a visible breath of pure, ancient magic before slowly, gently fading back into the encompassing, quiet light. The subtle hum from the deep blue tome now extends beyond a mere vibration, transforming the very air around it. The pervasive calm deepens further, as if the magic itself is weaving silken threads through the atmosphere. The air takes on a palpable softness, a velvety quality that gently brushes against your senses, making the quiet feel even more profound. Alongside this gentle touch, a faint, ancient aroma begins to unfurl, a delicate blend of old parchment, dried lavender, and a whisper of something uniquely magical and sweet, like crystallized moonlight. It's an essence that speaks of forgotten studies and patient wisdom, a scent so subtle it feels like a memory rather than a direct experience. Yet it enriches the serene tableau. The sapphire glow, now richer and more steadfast, casts intricate, almost imperceptible patterns upon the adjacent wooden shelves, like fleeting shadows of long-lost symbols or the ghost of a star map, dancing in the dust-laden air before fading into the deeper shadows. The light from the enchanted volume, though gentle, possesses an uncanny ability to reveal the true character of its surroundings. It bathes the dark, ancient wood of the bookshelves in a way that highlights every nuance, the faint, smooth depressions where countless fingers have traced titles over centuries, the subtle grain patterns that ripple like still water, and even tiny, almost invisible carved markings that hint at the skilled hands of long-forgotten Hogwarts artisans. The wood, dark and stoic, seems to drink in the sapphire light, reflecting it not brightly, but with an inner, muted luminescence, as if the magic is seeping into its very core. This creates an illusion of endless depth within the shelves, an invitation for your gaze to wander into the serene darkness between the rows of books, where the glow recedes, only to reappear as distant, tiny glimmers. It's a testament to the enduring presence of magic, subtly enhancing and revealing the quiet beauty of the library's ancient structure. As the gentle, rhythmic pulse of the blue light continues, a profound sense of stillness settles, not a heavy silence, but one that feels like a soft, ancient embrace. It's as if time itself has slowed within this particular aisle of the restricted section, honoring the immense weight of history contained within these hallowed walls, and especially within this softly glowing tome. The vast, unseen stretches of the library beyond this alcove feel distant, hushed, and equally steeped in patient wisdom. The very air seems to hold its breath, a quiet communion between the old magic and the sleeping castle. The sapphire light, in its slow, steady ebb and flow, feels like a visible manifestation of Hogwarts' own deep, slow breath. A quiet, powerful exhalation of magic that has endured for 1,000 years. This gentle, living light reassures, suggesting that countless stories, spells, and secrets lie not just within the books, but are woven into the very fabric of the castle, patiently awaiting a quiet moment to reveal their enduring presence. The invitation for your gaze to wander into the serene darkness between the rows of books now reveals an exquisite secret: the very air itself. Within the deep, hushed canyons of the restricted section, the sapphire glow emanating from the enchanted tome finds purchase not just on wood and leather, but on the invisible currents that stir the ancient dust. Each beam of light becomes a pathway, illuminating countless motes that drift and dance with an almost sentient grace. These aren't the hurried particles of a sunlit room, but slow, languid specks, suspended in time, each catching the gentle glow and transforming into a tiny, ephemeral star. They spin and shimmer, creating a silent, unhurried ballet in the otherwise still air, a celestial miniature performance within the heart of the library. This delicate airborne dance makes the silence feel less like an absence and more like a palpable presence, a soft, vibrant hush that holds within it the accumulated wisdom and quiet breaths of centuries. As the shimmering dust motes slowly recede into the deeper shadows, your gaze naturally descends, drawn by the same soft, sapphire luminescence now spilling onto the ancient stone floor. Here, the light reveals a testament to countless footsteps, not hurried or harried, but steady and deliberate. The flagstones, dark and worn smooth over centuries, reflect the glow with a subdued sheen, like still water beneath a moonlit sky. Faint indentations and subtle undulations in the stone suggest paths worn by generations of diligent scholars and curious minds. Each smooth patch feels like a silent echo of a wizard's foot, patiently making their way through these hallowed halls. The sapphire light, rather than merely illuminating, seems to awaken the history embedded within the stone. Now, as your attention gently lifts once more, it settles upon the books themselves, closer than before, drawn by the subtle glimmers still dancing between their rows. The sapphire light, no longer just a general wash, pinpoints individual volumes, revealing their unique characters. Some books are bound in dark, cracked leather, their surfaces resembling ancient, sleeping dragons, weathered by time yet holding immense power. Others boast spines of velvety, faded fabric, their colors softened to muted jewel tones, like rare, forgotten gems. You notice faint, almost forgotten symbols embossed into some covers, intricate patterns that seem to shift subtly at the edge of your perception, hinting at forgotten languages or wards of protection. One particular volume catches your eye. Its spine, slightly thicker than its neighbors, is adorned not with gold lettering, but with a deeply carved, smooth emblem, perhaps a crescent moon or a stylized star. The sapphire glow, now fully settled upon the ancient flagstones, reveals more than just wear. It gently illuminates faint, almost invisible etchings woven into the dark stone, intricate, swirling lines that might be forgotten protective runes, or perhaps the artistic flourishes of a long-past stonemason. They whisper of a time when every detail held deeper meaning, cradled in the very foundations of this hallowed place. The light seems to linger on these patterns, bringing them to life with a soft, pulsing rhythm, as if the magic within them is stirred awake by its presence. As the light continues its slow exploration, it eventually brushes against a small, unassuming object nestled, almost imperceptibly, at the edge of one of the flagstones. It is nothing grand or flashy, merely a smooth, dark pebble, perhaps dislodged from a wall long ago, or a forgotten token. Yet, caught in the sapphire glow, its humble form takes on a quiet significance, a silent witness to countless footsteps and whispered spells, a tiny fragment of the castle's enduring memory, momentarily brought into the soft luminescence. The sapphire glow, having fully explored the ancient flagstones and their embedded memories, now begins its gentle ascent. It rises slowly, almost as if drawn by an unseen current, away from the tiny pebble and the intricate etchings. As it climbs, it washes over the base of a towering, shadowed bookshelf, revealing the worn edges of its lowest shelves, heavy with forgotten knowledge. The light here is subdued, respecting the quiet weight of the books it touches, before continuing its silent journey upward, tracing the contours of the age-old library walls. Higher still, the sapphire light reaches an arched entryway, previously veiled in shadow, now softly outlined by its luminescence. This archway, grand and imposing, marks a clear transition, a silent threshold to a place of deeper secrets. The stone here feels cooler, imbued with the stillness of centuries. Through the arch, the air shimmers subtly, hinting at a different atmosphere within, perhaps a faint, sweet scent of aged parchment and dust, undisturbed and waiting, almost as if the very air holds its breath. Passing through the archway, the sapphire glow now unveils the majestic, wrought iron gate that guards the entrance to the restricted section. Its intricate scrollwork, dark and imposing, is momentarily softened by the light, creating fleeting patterns of shadow and illumination. Beyond the bars, a deeper quiet settles, broken only by the castle's distant, barely perceptible hum. And there, from within the hushed depths, a new kind of light begins to emerge, a soft, internal warmth, a quiet, gentle glow emanating from the ancient tomes themselves, a comforting promise of forgotten magic beckoning softly. The sapphire glow, with its soft, ethereal light, eased through the grand archway. It was like stepping into a breath held for centuries. The air within the restricted section was noticeably cooler, carrying with it a delicate perfume of ancient parchment and fine dust, a scent both sweet and grounding, a quiet testament to countless forgotten tales slumbering within. The light pooled momentarily on the threshold, emphasizing the almost palpable stillness, as if time itself had slowed its hurried pace here, content to let secrets rest undisturbed. This was a realm of hushed reverence, where the very shadows seemed to cradle profound wisdom. Slowly, deliberately, the sapphire light began to drift deeper into the section. It caressed the towering walls, now revealed to be lined from floor to ceiling with endless shelves of books, each bound in leather that had softened and darkened with the passage of ages. The spines, some smooth and unadorned, others intricately embossed with symbols lost to common memory, whispered of forgotten crafts and arcane knowledge. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth seemed to emanate from the very fabric of these books, a gentle, residual magic held captive within their pages, as if their stories were breathing a soft, silent breath. As the sapphire glow continued its exploration, it began to encounter subtle counterglows. Here and there, nestled amongst the countless shadowed volumes, a singular tome would seem to hold a faint, inner light of its own, not a harsh, startling beam, but a soft, deep amber or a muted silver radiating from beneath the aged leather, a quiet pulse that resonated with the castle's ancient heartbeat. These were the true treasures of the section, not for their danger, but for the profound, gentle magic they held, a magic that comforted and beckoned, inviting silent contemplation rather than hurried study. The sapphire light danced around these glowing books, highlighting their contours, joining in their serene, luminous symphony. The sapphire light now settled upon a shelf of particularly aged volumes. Here, the deep leather of the bindings seemed to absorb and soften the light, reflecting it back in muted, velvety hues. Tiny motes of dust, undisturbed for years, caught the gentle luminescence, dancing in miniature, slow-motion ballets within the still air. Each speck was a minuscule star, suspended in time, floating near spines that bore the weight of centuries. Some titles were obscured by time, their gilt lettering flaked away, while others, in faded silver or bronze, hinted at subjects both profound and forgotten. A A subtle pattern of concentric circles, perhaps a ward or a forgotten seal, could be discerned on one particularly thick, dark volume. A quiet testament to its guarded contents. The very air around these books felt heavier, imbued with the quiet intensity of unread wisdom. As the sapphire glow deepened, it fell upon a single, unassuming volume nestled amongst its peers. This book, thicker than the rest, was bound in a deep, almost indigo velvet, its edges worn smooth by centuries of careful handling. No title was visible on its spine, only a single, intricately carved silver clasp, now tarnished with age, holding its secrets fast. But what truly set it apart was a faint, internal luminescence that seemed to awaken as the sapphire light touched it. It was not a blinding flash, but a soft, steady pulse of warmth, like a quiet heartbeat emanating from within its very core. The gentle light was a pale gold, a hidden echo of ancient enchantments, just barely visible beneath the velvet, making the air around it shimmer with a subtle, palpable magic, as if the book itself were dreaming. Drifting past the gently humming book, the sapphire light began to explore a small, recessed alcove further down the aisle. This quiet nook, almost hidden by an arching support beam and a cascade of heavy, velvet drapery in a deep, dusty green, felt like a secret within a secret. Within, a sturdy, dark wood lectern stood, its surface scarred by rings from forgotten inkwells and the impressions of countless elbows. Next to it, a high-backed, comfortable-looking armchair, upholstered in the same faded green velvet, offered an unspoken invitation. A single, unlit, thick beeswax candle sat patiently on a small side table, waiting for a scholar to ignite its flame, a silent promise of quiet study. The air here was even calmer, a lingering scent of old leather, and perhaps a faint hint of peppermint, suggesting long nights of concentration. It was a place where generations of wizards had sought solitude, poring over forbidden texts, their whispers now woven into the very fabric of the stones. The faint golden glow from the velvet book intensified ever so slightly, casting a delicate halo on the dust-laden air directly above it. Each tiny particle, once a pale star, now reflected a soft, warm hue, swirling in slow, invisible currents. The air itself felt silkier, as if woven with strands of comfort and slumber. The quiet heartbeat of the book resonating in the stillness, a lullaby of ancient magic. As the golden light pulsed, it revealed faint, almost invisible etchings on the shelf beneath the book. Tiny, intricate symbols that looked like miniature celestial maps, glowing briefly with a faint, sympathetic shimmer. These subtle markings, perhaps wards or forgotten blessings, whispered of layers of protection woven into the very structure of the library, safeguarding the dormant knowledge within. Nearby, a slender, scroll-like volume, bound in pale, untreated parchment, seemed to respond to the gentle energies. Its surface, previously still, now showed the faintest ripple, as if a soft, unseen breeze were passing over its aged paper. No words were disturbed, no pages turned, but a whisper of anticipation filled the air, a silent acknowledgement of the power awakening in its velvet neighbor. The subtle magic of the book continued to unfurl, not with a burst, but with the steady, measured rhythm of a deep, dreamless breath. The gentle pulse of golden light grew just a fraction warmer, imbuing the air with a faint, almost imperceptible fragrance, a delicate blend of ancient parchment, forgotten lavender, and a whisper of distant rain on stone. It was a scent that spoke of centuries past, of scholars poring over wisdom under flickering candlelight, of quiet moments of discovery. The dust motes, previously dancing in random currents, now seemed to arrange themselves in a slow, hypnotic spiral directly above the velvet volume, catching the pale gold light and holding it momentarily, like suspended flecks of pure starlight. This luminous dance was a silent conversation between the book and its surroundings, a gentle exhalation of dormant power. A subtle warmth now emanated from the book, not hot or sharp, but akin to the comfortable heat from a mug of spiced tea on a cold evening, settling into the very bones of the shelf and radiating outwards, a silent, comforting presence in the hushed chamber. As the warmth deepened and the golden light steadied its serene rhythm, a subtle transformation began upon the book's ancient silver clasp. What once appeared tarnished and dull now seemed to respond to the gentle magic emanating from within. The dull gray sheen slowly began to recede, not flaking away, but as if being softly absorbed back into the metal itself. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer, like moonlight on calm water, spread across its surface. Tiny, intricate details, previously obscured by centuries of neglect, began to emerge. Minute runes, no larger than a grain of sand, coiled themselves around the clasp's delicate edges, catching the golden light and reflecting it in miniature pinpricks of soft brilliance. The golden luminescence, having fully roused the slumbering clasp, now stretched its warm embrace further, gently reaching out from the velvet book and touching its immediate neighbors on the ancient shelf. To either side, dark, unassuming volumes, bound in time-worn leather and thick, woven linen, lay in quiet repose. These books, unlike the central velvet tome, bore no internal light, but as the golden glow brushed their spines, a faint, ephemeral shimmer seemed to pass over their surfaces. Dust motes, which had settled thick and undisturbed for decades, perhaps centuries, on their covers, stirred infinitesimally, catching the borrowed light like tiny, fleeting sparks. One book, bound in deep emerald green leather, revealed a barely visible, embossed serpent coiling along its spine, now given a fleeting golden highlight. Another, stout and squat, with a simple, unadorned cover of rough gray linen, seemed to exhale a single, almost inaudible sigh. A whisper of old magic briefly awakened by the proximity of the velvet book's gentle pulse. It was as if the central book, in its quiet awakening, was sharing a soft, comforting dream with its ancient companions, reminding them of the shared stories and dormant enchantments they held within the hallowed, hushed corridors of the restricted section. The minute runes, now more defined, began to subtly shift their positions on the silver clasp. They weren't moving quickly, but with the stately grace of ancient celestial bodies, turning just enough to catch the golden glow at slightly different angles. This slow, almost imperceptible dance made it seem as though the clasp itself was breathing. A quiet, metallic pulse echoing the gentle magic within the book. Each tiny symbol, no bigger than a speck of dust, now held a distinct, soft luminescence, outlining its unique form against the silver. As the runes continued their slow, deliberate ballet, the entire silver clasp began to hum with a nearly inaudible vibration. It was less a sound and more a feeling, a deep resonance that vibrated through the air, stirring the dust motes into an even more intricate dance. The shimmer across its surface intensified, transforming from a subtle moonlight reflection to a soft, ethereal gleam, as if the metal itself was momentarily becoming liquid light. The clasp now radiated a gentle coolness, a stark contrast to the book's previous warmth, a soothing chill that felt ancient and clean. With a soft, almost imperceptible click, the silver clasp didn't open in the traditional sense, but rather seemed to dissolve inward, its two halves retracting seamlessly into the leather cover. There was no visible seam, no sharp edges, just a smooth, undisturbed surface where the intricate lock had once been. In its place, a small, circular indentation remained, perfectly flush with the book's ancient binding, glowing faintly with the same soft, golden light that emanated from within. It was an invitation, unspoken and gentle, to delve deeper into the wisdom held within. Gentle coolness emanating from the silver clasp, a crisp, clean breath of ancient magic, began its quiet journey, not with haste, but with the unhurried grace of mist unfurling across a still lake at dawn. It seeped, almost imperceptibly, into the dark, worn leather of the book's venerable cover, a subtle transfer that seemed to reawaken its very fibers from a deep, long slumber where once the leather felt merely old and dry, its surface a testament to centuries of quiet neglect and countless passing shadows. It now possessed a faint, living texture. There was a delicate responsiveness beneath an imagined touch, a subtle give, as if the book itself was a sleeping creature, its skin stirring from a profound dream. Minute indentations, long smoothed by the patient caress of time and the settling of countless dust motes, began to softly deepen, like lines gently etched into a wise, dreaming face. These weren't harsh, sudden changes, but a gradual, organic etching, revealing intricate, swirling patterns and forgotten symbols embossed into the thick, rich material. As the ancient leather seemed to settle into its renewed, quiescent state, a new, softer light began to pulse, not from the clasp, but from within the book itself. It wasn't the sharp brilliance of a freshly cast spell, nor the bright flare of a firework, but a diffused, buttery glow, as if sunlight from a forgotten summer had been trapped within the pages for centuries, and was only now beginning its gentle seep outwards. The light, warm and inviting, gently pushed against the closed edges of the tome, outlining each individual page with a faint, shimmering halo, a soft radiance that contrasted sweetly and harmoniously with the lingering, cool blue luminescence of the silver clasp. This internal radiance brought with it a different kind of warmth, not a physical heat that might stir or awaken, but a comforting, almost drowsy sensation, like standing near a distant, gently glowing hearth on a chilly evening, feeling its sleepy embrace. It was a warmth that spoke of knowledge, of forgotten stories, and of a quiet, enduring magic. Dust motes, previously dancing only in the ambient, flickering library light, now swirled in miniature galaxies within this soft, new luminescence, catching the light like tiny, suspended stars, each one a universe unto itself, performing a slow, silent ballet in the air. This quiet, burgeoning radiance from the single book, now a gentle anchor of light on the table, did not remain isolated. Like a soft call carried on an unseen, magical current, its subtle energies seemed to ripple outwards, a slow, wave-like expansion that touched the surrounding shelves. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, other ancient tomes nearby, those silent sentinels of forgotten lore, began to respond. A faint, almost spectral luminescence awoke within a heavy, vellum-bound volume just to its left, its delicate, tarnished gold leaf lettering shimmering, as if suddenly breathed upon by an invisible sigh. The light from this neighboring book was a pale, moon-kissed silver, a cooler cousin to the warm, buttery glow of the first. Across the narrow aisle, where shadows typically lay thick and undisturbed, a towering stack of forbidden texts, their covers dark and unadorned, now held a deep, internal thrum. The buttery glow deepened slightly, not into brightness, but into a richer, more saturated hue, as if the trapped sunlight had gathered itself, becoming more potent. This subtle intensification brought out the faint, previously invisible indentations on the book's ancient leather cover. Not just the smooth texture, but delicate, almost microscopic patterns, like the veins on an autumn leaf, now faintly shimmering with the internal light. They were too subtle to read, but their mere presence whispered of forgotten artistry, a silent language etched into the very skin of the book, softly revealed. As these faint patterns emerged, the light itself seemed to breathe, a slow, gentle pulse that was barely perceptible, a rhythm like a sleeping heart. With each soft exhalation of light, the very air around the book seemed to thicken, imbued with a quiet, almost palpable resonance. It wasn't a sound, but a feeling, as if the ancient stories within the pages were stirring, sending out ripples of their forgotten presence, gently brushing against the spines of neighboring, equally venerable but unlit volumes on the shelf, granting them a fleeting, borrowed warmth on their dusty surfaces. And with this soft resonance, a new, delicate aroma began to unfurl from the glowing tome, mingling with the settled dust. It was a scent like dried wildflowers pressed between parchment, aged cedarwood, and a hint of something sweet and earthy, perhaps a forgotten spell's faint echo, or the essence of ancient ink. This ethereal perfume was so subtle it felt more like a memory than a present sensation, a whisper of countless centuries drifting gently through the quiet air, a comforting, drowsy fragrance that invited a deeper sense of peace into the hushed aisle. The quiet, almost imperceptible resonance that had begun to emanate from the primary, softly breathing book now spread outward like ripples in a silent pool, reaching the immediate vicinity of its nearest shelfmate. This neighboring tome, perhaps equally ancient, but until now a silent, shadowed sentinel, received this borrowed warmth with an almost imperceptible tremor. It wasn't a physical vibration that could be felt, but rather a visual softening of its stern, aged contours. The deep, dusty brown of its leather, previously flat and opaque, seemed to absorb a fraction of the golden amber glow, revealing latent, almost invisible traces of a different era. The dust that had settled undisturbed upon its spine for decades, usually a uniform, dull gray, now caught the faint, transferred light in a new way, shimmering with a silver gold sparkle, as if countless tiny, metallic flecks had been woven into its very composition, only now to be awakened by this gentle, borrowed luminescence, a faint, almost transparent outline, like a ghost of a long-lost bookmark, seemed to flicker into existence near its worn edges, a temporary echo of a story once paused, now briefly reanimated by the primary book's quiet, magical pulse. As the gentle, rhythmic breathing of the primary book continued, its internal light maintaining its soft, deep glow. A new layer of detail began to unfold on its ancient cover. The faint, leaf-like patterns, once shimmering only with the vague impression of organic lines and forgotten artistry, now started a slow, almost dreamlike transformation. It was not a sudden burst of revelation, but a gradual, deliberate coalescing, as if the book itself was slowly, serenely opening a hidden eye. The delicate, thread-like veins on the leather, previously too intricate and numerous to hold any singular meaning, began to shift and align, drawing together with an uncanny precision. From this subtle rearrangement, a singular, simple, yet deeply resonant glyph emerged. It was an ancient symbol, perhaps a forgotten rune of protection or a sigil of knowledge, etched not into the surface, but seemingly from within the very fabric of the leather, with the gentle glyph now softly revealed on the primary tome, and the neighboring volume holding its borrowed, ethereal warmth. The entire pocket of air around them seemed to undergo a subtle but profound change. The dust motes, which had earlier danced like tiny, suspended galaxies within the ambient, flickering library light, and then spun in miniature universes within the primary book's aura, now seemed to possess an independent luminescence. They weren't merely reflecting the golden amber light, they were absorbing it, becoming tiny, transient vessels of that soft, inner glow, and then re-emitting it as they drifted. Each microscopic particle, previously just a speck of mundane detritus, now shimmered with a faint, almost conscious light, transforming into a fleeting, living spark. They moved with a newfound grace and intention, no longer scattered haphazardly, but rising and falling in slow, deliberate spirals, tracing intricate, unseen patterns in the thickened air. Some would gather briefly, forming tiny, shimmering constellations that slowly dispersed, while others would embark on solitary, looping journeys, leaving behind imperceptible, glowing trails that lingered for a moment before fading into the encompassing warmth. The glyph, now fully manifest, had settled into its final, intricate form, a masterpiece of forgotten artistry that seemed to glow not just on the surface of the ancient leather, but from within the very depths of its material. It pulsed with a quiet, deep amber light, a hue so rich and warm it felt less like illumination and more like a gentle, magical breath. This pulse wasn't a sudden flash, but a slow, rhythmic ebb and flow, like a serene heartbeat too soft for mortal ears, yet undeniably present. With each silent expansion, a wave of subtle energy, imbued with the book's gentle luminescence, began to ripple outwards. These ripples were not abrupt or jarring. They were elegant, unhurried arcs of soft, golden light that moved with a languid grace, spreading across the immediate space around the primary tome. Each wave, perfectly concentric, washed over the accumulated dust on the dark, aged wood of the shelf, as the final, lingering shimmer of the concentric light ripples faded into the undisturbed stillness of the restricted section. The gentle luminescence emanating from the primary book's glyph didn't diminish. Instead, it subtly changed its character. It ceased its rhythmic pulsing and began to flow, not in waves, but with a deliberate, liquid quality, like a slow-moving, golden current along the aged, dark wood of the shelf itself. This wasn't a bright, insistent beam, but a soft, almost hesitant migration of light, tracing the subtle imperfections, the deep, meandering grain, and the smoothed-over edges of the ancient timber. It moved with an unhurried grace, revealing the silent history etched into the very fabric of the shelf. As this luminous stream crept along, it began to highlight details previously lost in shadow. The profound, internal hum from the midnight blue velvet book continued its gentle, rhythmic pulse, a silent song that permeated the immediate space, creating an almost palpable aura of ancient stillness. It wasn't a sound that could disturb. Rather, it was a vibration that seemed to settle the very molecules of the air, making the quiet even deeper, more profound. Each subtle thrum released another layer of the intricate olfactory tapestry that now enriched the air around the tome. The initial blend of old parchment and dried herbs deepened, revealing new, more specific notes. The faint, woody scent of cedar, perhaps from a forgotten bookmark. The sweet, earthy aroma of dry, pressed moss, and an ethereal hint of distant, sweet-smelling incense, long since turned to dust. This fragrant cloud wasn't confined to the book itself. It began to gently unfurl, slowly dispersing outwards in a delicate, invisible mist, softly permeating the air between the tightly packed shelves, creating a localized pocket of time-worn serenity. As the scent deepened and spread, a subtle visual change began to manifest on the velvet cover itself. Directly where the primary book's gentle glow still rested, golden current, having lovingly traced the natural patterns of the aged timber, now began to uncover something more deliberate. With an even slower, almost reverent pace, it revealed faint, almost invisible runic etchings embedded deeply within the wood itself. These weren't mere carvings, but appeared to be ancient, protective glyphs, perhaps woven into the very structure of the shelf by long-forgotten Hogwarts magic. As the soft, luminous stream washed over each symbol, the runes didn't just become visible, they absorbed a tiny measure of the golden light, responding with an incredibly subtle, internal glimmer of their own. This gentle, responsive glow was barely perceptible, a quiet affirmation of the dormant magic still held within the library's ancient foundations. The light moved like a knowing finger, illuminating each curve and line of these hidden guardians, hinting at layers of enchantment, safeguarding the priceless knowledge held within these hallowed halls. The air, already still, seemed to deepen its silence, acknowledging the slow uncovering of these quiet, magical secrets. A breath held in the castle's very stones as the luminous flow continued its unhurried journey. It gently departed from the shelf's etched surface and began to brush against the spines of a tightly packed row of ancient, leather-bound volumes. The light, instead of directly illuminating them, cast long, soft shadows that stretched across the stone wall behind the books. These shadows were not stark or harsh. They were elongated, elegant forms that swayed with an almost imperceptible rhythm, as if mirroring the silent, gentle pulse that had first emerged from the primary tome. The subtle dance of the shadows on the rough-hewn stone created an illusion of depth, transforming the flat wall into a canvas of shifting mysteries. Each shadow, a dark silhouette against the soft, silver moonlight filtering in through high, narrow windows, hinted at hidden spaces and untold stories within the depths of the shelves. It was a visual whisper, suggesting that even the absence of light could reveal a quiet, profound beauty in the hushed embrace of the restricted section. Finally, the slow-moving current of golden light converged, pooling around a single, unassuming volume nestled between two taller, more imposing tomes. This particular book, with its plain, almost drab leather cover and unadorned spine, had been practically invisible moments before. A quiet observer in a world of ornate spells and grand histories, yet as the liquid light enveloped it, the book seemed to sigh, absorbing the gentle luminescence not into its surface, but deep into its very core. A subtle, almost imperceptible warmth began to emanate from its cover, a faint, comforting emanation that shimmered softly in the otherwise cool, still air of the restricted section. It was not a heat that burned, but a gentle, ancient warmth, like sunlight absorbed by stone over centuries. This quiet glow spoke of a quiet power, a hidden story stirred from its long slumber, now sharing a soft, comforting pulse with the very heart of the castle. The quiet dance of shadows began to slow. The elegant, elongated forms on the stone wall behind the shelves, gradually losing their gentle sway. The stream of soft, magical light that had been brushing so lightly across the row of ancient spines seemed to gather itself, its diffuse luminescence pulling inward. It ceased to be a wide, ethereal wash and became a single, focused thread of pale gold, no thicker than a wand. This delicate tendril of light moved with a new sense of purpose, leaving the other volumes in deepened shadow as it traveled along the shelf. It passed over spines of dark green leather, embossed with silver constellations, and others of smooth, unmarked vellum that seemed to drink in the darkness. Finally, it stopped. Where the light met the leather, a slow transformation began. The contact was utterly silent, yet it felt like the quietest of conversations. The thread of gold did not merely illuminate the worn surface, it seemed to pour into it, sinking into the faint, almost invisible indentations that scarred the spine. For a long moment, nothing happened. The light was simply absorbed. Then, from deep within the material, a response came. The coppery illumination from the ancient script deepened, casting a small, warm pool of light into the surrounding air. It was just enough to reveal the countless motes of dust hanging motionless in the library's stillness. Tiny specks of history suspended in time. But then something new joined them. From the glowing letters on the book's spine, impossibly small particles began to detach themselves. One by one, they lifted away from the leather, not falling, but floating upward with an extraordinary slowness. They were not dust. They were tiny, perfect embers of the same coppery light, each one a minuscule spark of the book's reawakened heart. From the depths of the worn leather, a faint luminescence began to assert itself. It was not the abrupt flash of a spell, but a slow, deliberate bloom, like a deep breath taken by the ancient volume itself. The pale gold light, previously absorbed, now seemed to gently push back, permeating the leather from within. The surface of the book, once merely old and scarred, now pulsed with a soft, internal warmth. Its faint indentations and faded patterns briefly catching and holding the nascent glow. It was a silent, profound unfolding, a quiet invitation. As the glow intensified, no louder than a whispered thought, a subtle hum began to resonate from the book's core. It was a vibration more felt than heard, a low, comforting thrum against the deep quiet of the library. Tiny motes of dust, previously suspended in the still air, caught the burgeoning light and began to stir. They danced in slow, deliberate spirals around the book, illuminated like miniature, golden galaxies, each a silent witness to the gentle awakening of the tome. This dance of light and dust created a delicate halo, a shimmering sphere of calm around the ancient volume. A delicate, almost forgotten scent then unfurled, weaving itself through the still air. It was a fragrance not of must or decay, but of aged parchment, warm ink, and something else. Something profoundly magical, reminiscent of sun-warmed stone and distant, gentle rain on an ancient forest floor. This quiet aroma mingled with the soft glow and the faint hum, creating a multi-sensory cocoon of peace around the book. The adjacent volumes, previously dark and silent, seemed to absorb this shared quietude, their dark spines now appearing less stark, softened by the gentle, expanding aura. The shimmering sphere of calm around the ancient volume softly expanded, pushing back the deep, velvet shadows that had clung to the tall shelves. It was a gentle, almost timid advance, not bright enough to jar the senses, but sufficient to etch the intricate, cobweb-fine carvings of the shelf above into soft, golden relief. In the nascent light, the spines of other silent volumes, previously lost to the gloom, now caught the faint shimmer, their dormant surfaces hinting at similar, deep secrets held within their brittle pages. A subtle warmth, like sun-drenched stone, radiated from the expanding glow, inviting the surrounding air to partake in its quiet magic. With each slow, steady pulse of the book's internal light, a faint, almost imperceptible scent began to unfurl itself in the utterly still air of the restricted section. It was not a sharp aroma, but a dry, comforting blend of old parchment, seasoned, aged wood from the library's very structure, and a distant, almost forgotten memory of dried lavender. This gentle, calming fragrance mingled with the slowly swirling, illuminated dust motes, creating an ethereal, olfactory veil of deep, aged magic that seemed to settle around the awakened tome, inviting a deeper sense of peace as the light settled into its gentle, unhurried rhythm, focusing its soft luminescence. A faint, almost invisible inscription on the book's worn leather cover became subtly apparent. It was not a sprawling title or an author's name, but a single, elegant rune, etched with such exquisite subtlety that it could easily be overlooked in the harsher light of day. The rune itself seemed to absorb the book's inner glow with a quiet reverence, holding the soft gold captive within its ancient, flowing curves, pulsing now with a delicate, independent life of its own. A tiny heart of light beating softly on the old leather as the ethereal veil of magic thickened. The subtle hum from the awakened tome deepened, settling into a continuous, low thrum that vibrated gently through the very air, a lullaby to the ancient quiet. This delicate sound was so soft it felt less like hearing, and more like an inner resonance, a quiet whisper against the grand silence of the restricted section. The expanding circle of golden light now kissed the adjacent rows of books, revealing forgotten titles etched in faded gold leaf, their covers adorned with intricate, sometimes unfamiliar, symbols that seemed to hold their own dormant stories. Each symbol, briefly illuminated, appeared to stir, almost as if acknowledging the gentle awakening of its neighbor, a silent communion of long slumbering magic. One particular volume, slightly smaller and bound in dark, velvety hide, seemed to respond with particular grace. Its spine bore a single, elegant symbol, a stylized moon cradling a tiny, five-pointed star, which now caught the awakened tome's light with a gentle, reflective shimmer. Around this specific emblem, the dancing dust motes began to weave in a tighter, more deliberate pattern, forming a miniature, slowly rotating nebula of golden light. This intricate dance seemed to draw out a faint, almost imperceptible silver thread of light from within the velvety volume itself, a dormant magic stirred by the proximity of the deeper, golden glow. The silver light, now faintly pulsing from the moon and star symbol, began to intertwine with the golden luminescence of the primary awakened tome. They merged not by clashing, but by blending, creating soft, ethereal ribbons of pearlescent light that softly spiraled upwards, tracing the contours of the shelf and dissipating gently into the higher, shadowed reaches of the library. This delicate interplay of gold and silver deepened the pervasive sense of serenity, as if the very air was imbued with a dual magic, a whispered dialogue between the ancient wisdom of the two volumes. The shadows, once deep and still, now seemed softer, warmed by the gentle dance of light, creating a comforting, protective cocoon of quiet magic around this secret corner of the restricted section. The delicate silver thread, barely visible at first, began to unfurl more confidently from the velvety hide. It didn't rush, but rather stretched with a serene slowness, like spun moonlight drawn from a deep well of starlight. As it lengthened, it gently arced towards the steady, golden radiance of the awakened tome, a slender bridge of cool silver reaching for a warm embrace. The dust motes, previously swirling around the moon and star emblem, now seemed to pause their intricate dance, momentarily captivated by this emerging line of light, before resuming their gentle circulation around the growing connection. A new, subtle shift in the air, a breath of quiet expectation, seemed to ripple through the immediate space between the two volumes, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation of their ancient communion. With an imperceptible grace, the silver thread finally met the outer edge of the golden glow, not with a flash, but with a silent, gentle merging. Where the two lights touched, a delicate, ethereal shimmer bloomed, a soft, pale gold that seemed to whisper of dawn breaking over a forgotten peak. This new, combined light didn't expand, but rather pulsed softly, a shared heartbeat of ancient magic between the two volumes. From within this shimmering union, a faint, almost musical resonance began to emanate, a sound far too subtle for the ear, felt instead as a tranquil warmth settling into the very essence of the quiet air, a calming echo of long-dormant knowledge finally stirred awake. This newly formed, gentle pale gold shimmer began to diffuse outwards, not aggressively, but with a tender, almost hesitant grace, washing over the spines of the adjacent, unawakened tomes as the soft light touched them. Faint, forgotten etchings and symbols on their aged covers seemed to deepen momentarily, their dormant magic stirring in a collective, sleepy sigh. It was as if the two communicating books were sharing a fragment of their ancient dialogue, a whisper of old stories across the shelf. The seasoned wood of the shelves themselves, usually dark and stoic, caught the light with a newfound warmth, revealing the subtle grain and the marks of countless centuries, each telling a silent tale of its own. The gentle merging of the silver and golden lights continued its soft, almost imperceptible pulse. It was a rhythm so slow, so deep, that it resonated less as a visual flicker and more as a sustained, internal warmth. This warmth began to spread, not outwards like a wave, but inwards, into the very heart of the quiet air around the two ancient volumes. It carried with it that faint, musical resonance, a sound truly beyond the ear, yet felt with an undeniable clarity, like the softest touch on the surface of one's calmest thoughts. The dust motes, previously dancing in their intricate patterns, now seemed to arrange themselves in a new, even more deliberate waltz within this subtle, shimmering field. They circled the coalesced light with an almost reverent grace, each tiny particle catching a brief, ethereal gleam before fading back into the deep, soft shadows of the old shelf. This tranquil warmth, emanating from the softly pulsing, combined light, began a gentle journey beyond the immediate space of the two books. It didn't rush or surge, but rather diffused with the deliberate slowness of a deep breath taken in a quiet forest. Each venerable spine on the nearby shelves, bound in leather and imbued with its own silent history, seemed to absorb a fraction of this serene energy. A few of the closest volumes, particularly those bearing the most elaborate and ancient-looking clasps, began to exhibit the faintest, almost imperceptible flicker of light along their edges. Like distant, sleepy embers, it was a sympathetic glow, a quiet response to the awakened magic, a silent acknowledgement across the dusty, hallowed shelves. The air between the towering rows of books deepened in its stillness, becoming richer, as if infused with the quiet breath of countless stories, each one a dormant echo, the very wood of the shelves, dark and polished by centuries of scholarly hands and magical emanations, seemed to hum with a low, contented thrum, a subtle vibration that hinted at the deep roots of magic, woven into the very structure of the castle itself. As the subtle hum settled deeper into the architecture of the restricted section, the silent space seemed to expand, revealing more of its hushed grandeur. The towering shelves, stretching upwards into the soft gloom, appeared to recede into a gentle haze, their upper reaches lost in the play of shadows cast by distant, silently floating candles. Here and there, a sliver of soft moonlight, finding its way through a high, arched window, painted a cool silver stripe across a section of ancient spines, momentarily highlighting their intricate golden lettering or worn clasps. But these were fleeting touches of external light, quickly absorbed by the deep, ingrained shadows that truly defined this space. The air, now imbued with the shared breath of awakened knowledge, felt thick with history, a comforting weight that pressed gently against the senses. It was a quiet, living presence, composed of all the unread words and unwhispered spells, patiently waiting within the hallowed silence. This was the heart of Hogwarts' deepest secrets, not alarming or forbidden, but simply sleeping, now stirred by the faintest, most respectful touch of magic, promising a gentle, unending dream of knowledge. The low, contented thrum from the shelves seemed to resonate with the very air itself, causing the previously dancing dust motes to slow their intricate waltz, instead beginning a shimmering, upward drift. As they ascended, each tiny speck caught and scattered the coalesced light from the ancient volumes below, creating a soft, almost imperceptible rain of gentle starlight within the deep shadows. This subtle, ethereal shower highlighted the faded, gilded carvings on the high arches above, revealing forgotten symbols and intricate patterns that usually vanished into the gloom, now momentarily brought to life by the quiet magic. Among these newly illuminated patterns, one detail seemed to pulse with a slightly more insistent energy. A small, intricately carved symbol upon the spine of a truly massive, leather-bound book nestled deep within a nearby shelf. This particular volume, bound in faded dragon hide and clasped with what looked like a coiled serpent of tarnished silver, had always possessed an aura of profound age. Now the serpent's eyes, previously dull, began to glimmer with a faint, deep emerald light, a silent, almost imperceptible blink of ancient awareness. This emerald glimmer, though subtle, seemed to be a key, unlocking a deeper layer of stillness within the air. It wasn't just quiet. It was as if the very concept of quiet had deepened, becoming rich and resonant. From the depths of the countless pages, a new sensation unfurled, a gentle, comforting pressure, not heavy, but substantial. It felt like the accumulated breath of centuries of scholars, the soft sighs of forgotten wisdom, and the unspoken stories of generations, all settling around, weaving a thick, comforting blanket of presence and history within the hallowed space. This emerald glow, soft as a mossy whisper, did not flash, but instead deepened and spread, seeping from the serpent's eyes to trace the delicate, almost invisible lines of its coiled body upon the book's tarnished silver clasp. With each slow, measured beat of its illumination, more of the metal's intricate scales became visible, catching the light in tiny, ancient facets. The dragon hide binding itself, previously a uniform, faded gray-green, now seemed to absorb and subtly reflect the deepening emerald, revealing faint, almost ghost-like impressions of scales and leathery folds that had long been obscured by time and shadow. A quiet warmth, barely perceptible, emanated from the book, a gentle pulse against the cool, ancient air of the restricted section. As the emerald light matured, it began to cast a gentle, wavering pool of luminescence across the worn wooden shelf, touching the spines of neighboring volumes. These weren't mere reflections. It was as if the ancient energies within the dragonhide tome were extending a silent, magical tendril, coaxing a response from its companions. A few of the adjacent books, bound in dark, crumbling leather, and filled with forgotten lore, responded with their own tiny, sympathetic glows. A soft, fleeting sapphire from one, a deep, sleepy amethyst from another. These brief, colorful echoes rippled through the shadowed space, like distant fireflies stirring in an enchanted forest. Each one a tiny, hesitant breath of awakened magic across the deep silence of the library. The air around this small, illuminated cluster of books now held a palpable, yet incredibly soft presence. The dust motes, previously dancing, seemed to suspend themselves entirely within the gentle interplay of colors, shimmering with renewed intensity, like suspended stardust caught in an unseen current. A faint, almost subliminal hum began to resonate, not from any single book, but from the very essence of the shelves, the walls, and the deep, silent magic that permeated the restricted section. It was a sound beyond hearing, felt more as a deep, comforting vibration in the stillness, a lullaby woven from centuries of dormant enchantment, now softly awakening. This deep, resonant thrum whispered of forgotten spells and ancient knowledge, inviting a profound sense of calm. The air in the immediate vicinity of the glowing books began to shimmer with an almost imperceptible warm haze. It wasn't heat, but a gentle, comforting resonance, as if the very dust motes suspended in the ancient light were now imbued with the soft magic. They danced slower, less erratically, each tiny particle catching the emerald and amethyst, the sapphire and gold, transforming the ordinary stillness into something ethereal. A faint, almost unheard hum, like the distant memory of bees drowsing in a summer field, arose from the heart of the main dragonhide tome, a sound so subtle it might have been the blood whispering in one's own ears, yet undeniably present, a deep, rhythmic thrumming that spoke of profound slumber and awakening. This was not a sound of urgency, but of deep, contented presence, as if the books themselves were breathing slowly, collectively, in a shared, ancient dream. As the hum deepened, the sapphire-glowing volume, bound in what appeared to be dark, gnarled oak bark, pulsed with its own quiet rhythm. Its cover, previously a uniform shade of shadowy blue, now revealed a network of delicate, almost glowing veins, like ancient roots tracing paths across its surface. In the very center, where the light seemed strongest, a faint, swirling symbol began to materialize, a knot of interwoven lines, reminiscent of a miniature, sleeping whirlpool, yet radiating calm. This was not a symbol of power to be wielded, but of knowledge gently held, of forgotten water spells, or the slow, deep currents of magical thought. It hinted at stories of tranquil lakes within enchanted forests, or the gentle flow of time through secluded, magical rivers, all captured silently within its aged pages, now stirring just enough to share a glimpse of its inner world. The amethyst light, emanating from a volume bound in what felt like cool, velvet-soft moth wings, deepened in response to the sapphire's quiet unfolding. Its spine, previously a plain dark purple, now seemed to ripple with subtle, iridescent scales, each catching the ambient magic and reflecting it back in a cascade of soft, almost dreamlike hues. Within its depths, a sensation of ancient, comforting warmth began to spread, not unlike the feeling of a heavy, velvet blanket gently settling over one in a deep sleep. It spoke of long-forgotten charms of protection and rest, of lullabies sung in hushed, magical tongues, and remedies for troubled minds, all contained within its quiescent pages. This was the library's heart beating softly, a silent symphony of age and magic, preparing the air for a perfect, untroubled slumber, each book a guardian of peace. The entire section, bathed in these mingled, soft glows, felt less like a collection of objects and more like a living, dreaming entity, breathing slowly with the shared consciousness of centuries of wisdom. The swirling symbol on the sapphire glowing volume, already serene, seemed to deepen its luminescence, becoming less a static image and more a living, slumbering current. It pulsated slowly, as if drawing in the hushed magic of the library itself, then releasing it as an even softer, more profound light. Within its intricate knot, one could almost perceive the gentle, unseen shift of deep water, the slow turning of tides in enchanted lagoons, or the timeless whisper of underground rivers flowing through crystal caverns. It wasn't a symbol of command, but of inherent flow and ancient memory, inviting a quiet contemplation rather than eager study, a promise of stories that unspooled with the deliberate grace of forgotten springs. As the sapphire symbol held its gentle sway, a different book, resting on the shelf just beyond it, began to stir with its own subtle magic. This one was much smaller, bound not in hide or bark, but in what appeared to be pale, shimmering scales, like those of a dragon's underbelly or a giant beetle's wing. From its spine, a delicate emerald glow emerged, tracing almost invisible script that seemed to writhe gently, like sleeping vines unfurling in slow motion. This luminescence was cooler, yet equally calming, hinting at secrets of ancient botany, of enchanted gardens where moonlight nurtured rare magical blooms, or the slow, patient growth of protective ward plants, a faint, almost imperceptible tendril of emerald light, cool and delicate, extended from the smaller, scale-bound book. It didn't rush or surge, but drifted with serene purpose through the dust-moted air, seeking and finding the gentle sapphire glow emanating from its larger neighbor. The two distinct lights met, not clashing, but interweaving with a soft grace, like slow-moving ribbons of magic. Where they intertwined, a singular, ethereal motes of light formed, swirling slowly, creating a miniature galaxy of peaceful, combined magic. The air in this small space between the books now carried a whisper of sweet, damp earth after a summer shower, mingled with the faintest perfume of night-blooming flowers. The pale, shimmering scales of the smaller book seemed to ripple almost imperceptibly as the emerald script along its spine deepened in hue. It wasn't just light. It felt like a living, verdant essence, a gentle exhalation of ancient earth and forgotten sun. The writhing script, once merely decorative, now seemed to slow its dance, revealing faint, almost imperceptible symbols that promised tales of roots intertwining beneath the earth, of silent growth, and the quiet magic of things that blossom only under the rarest of moonbeams. A faint, sweet scent, like damp moss and night-blooming jasmine, now emanated from its delicate binding, filling the immediate space with a subtle, calming aroma as the gentle, mossy scent from the emerald book mingled with the quiet hum of the sapphire volume. A thin wisp of iridescent, silver-green dust, finer than any spider silk, detached itself from the spine of the scaled tome. It drifted lazily through the still air between the books, catching the mingled glows from both. For a fleeting moment, the dust seemed to coalesce, forming a miniature, shimmering leaf before slowly dissolving into nothingness, leaving behind only the lingering, almost imperceptible fragrance. This subtle display was a whisper, a gentle breath from the book's heart, a fleeting memory of ancient gardens. Just beneath these two quietly glowing volumes, nestled slightly askew on the same ancient shelf, lay a third book, much older and seemingly more modest. It had no obvious magical luminescence, its cover a deep, unadorned crimson leather, worn smooth by centuries of gentle handling, yet a warmth imperceptible to the eye, but distinct to a subtle, unseen sense emanated from it. This warmth was not a heat, but a comforting presence, like the memory of a sunbeam on an old stone wall, or the enduring embers of a very distant, long-extinguished fire. It felt like a keeper of quiet, domestic charms, of gentle warding spells woven into hearths, or the slow, rhythmic magic of a spinning wheel. Its silent presence added a layer of profound, grounded peace to the ethereal glow of its neighbors, an anchor in the gentle currents of magic. The emerald book, having just shed its shimmering dust, seemed to settle into a deeper, more profound luminescence. Its glowing script, once subtly writhing, now pulsed with a slow, rhythmic beat, like a tranquil heart beneath its scaled cover. This rhythm was almost imperceptible, a gentle breath in the hushed air, carrying with it the faint, sweet memory of damp moss and night-blooming jasmine that lingered. It was as if the book itself was breathing, a living repository of forgotten spells and verdant lore, content in its silent vigil. Meanwhile, the sapphire volume, standing sentinel beside it, seemed to respond to this quiet rhythm. Its deep blue hum, previously a steady drone, now resonated with a soft, sympathetic vibration, a counterpoint to the emerald pulse. The sapphire glow intensified ever so slightly, creating a richer, deeper pool of light that gently spilled over the edge of the shelf, illuminating the subtle dust motes that danced in its radiance. It was a silent conversation between ancient friends, a shared moment of profound, magical stillness as the two books settled into their shared, soft radiance. A new, almost imperceptible warmth began to emanate from the space between them. It was not a physical heat, but a comforting, magical effulgence, a subtle, energetic comfort that diffused into the cool library air, the intertwined scents of moss, jasmine, and now a faint, clean note of ancient parchment seemed to deepen and swirl, creating an intoxicating, soporific perfume that whispered of hidden knowledge and serene slumber, cradling the quiet corner in a gentle